Hello and welcome to another Town Talk special where I'm your host, Stephen Downs, and as usual, as we come to talk about how brilliant the Terriers were yesterday, as usual, I've got Mr. Kane Hall on the podcast. How are we doing, Kane? Enjoying your Sunday?
Yeah, good evening, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me on as per usual. Yeah, steady Sunday for me, out watching sport, football, rugby league, whichever one it may be. So yeah, keeping myself busy, pal.
Your Sunday probably was better than the Saturday. And also joining us on tonight's podcast, fresh from a 4-1 smashing of Manchester United in the Premier League, it's our local Geordie in town. Hello, Mr. Lewis Sale. Thanks for joining us tonight as our outside guide to what your thoughts are on Huddersfield Town. Cheers for joining us, bud.
No worries, chaps. Hope it's a good one as normal. I'm normally listening to you in my way to the office on Monday morning. You're a good tonic to start the week, so it's a pleasure to be part of you for this one.
Oh, well, you don't need to listen to us tomorrow, because unless you want to listen to yourself back, and then, go ahead. It will be. But we'll start, we'll go on now. So, obviously, it's been a difficult week for Huddersfield Town Football Club. 2 losses in this week, which basically means that the Terriers are probably now not going to get the playoffs. Yesterday, it got far worse for John Worthington and his band of merry men as the Brewers, well, let's be honest, brewed a storm for the away end where plenty of Carling was probably drank to drown our sorrows before they headed back up north to Huddersfield after a 3-0 absolute bashing by Burton Albion, let's be honest, at the Pirelli Stadium. So we're going to first of all talk about a little bit about Wycombe and then talk about the defeat to Burton. We're going to analyse where John Worthington comes from or goes next, and what does he need to do. And then we'll preview the game coming up on Good Friday, which is against Cambridge, against another team that are fighting for relegation to survive in League One, and obviously probably another defeat. But we'll begin by reviewing the games first. Please do get your comments in. We really appreciate all the comments in the last couple of shows. It's really brought up some great talking points. So make sure you give the video a like and the channel a subscribe. And obviously get involved, like I said. So, Kane, I'll come to you first because you were at the Wycombe game. I unfortunately had to miss it due to personal circumstances. Obviously, a 1-0 defeat to Wycombe on Tuesday. A game where we all said that we needed to win realistically to keep the playoff hopes alive. How did you see the fixture on the Tuesday night? Apparently, there was, what seemingly was about 5 people in the stadium, and you were one of them.
Yeah, come on. It weren't that bad in terms of attendance. Obviously, Wycombe didn't bring many at all, but it looked like that because people were leaving. People didn't want to turn up. People didn't want to be there, and it's a real shame that that's the feeling at the moment. So when you're losing like Town are, of course that's going to be the feeling. But let's touch on the performance because that's what I like to focus on myself. I thought the first half against Wycombe was pretty decent actually. I don't think it was a bad performance for the first 45 minutes. Thought they controlled the game really well, dominated possession. They just didn't really give Wycombe a sniff. Obviously, if you do your research, you know that Richard Coney is a very good player and puts the ball in the back of the net. And Town set up defensively in midfield. So the way that John Worthington plays is a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. Them 2 formations are very, very similar. It's just about having your pivot player in midfield, whether you have 1 or 2. Town decided to have 2 against Wycombe, which made perfect sense because Jonathan Hogg's role was take that ball off the striker's feet if it gets there. And he did a really, really good job at doing that defensively on Tuesday. I thought in the first half, the crosses that were coming in was the right ones. You've got to look at the size of Wycombe. They are a big side. There's no point putting the ball up in the air because you're not going to win it. So the first half, the ball was whipped in. It was driven low and Town were winning corners, getting nice deflections. And I think it had the defence worried. for the majority of the game. But then in the second half, for some reason, they started putting the ball up in the air in the box. And look, you're all right winning corners from these crosses and putting them in. And I think winning the corners are a superb way to try and get yourself forward. You can bring some players up from the back. Knowing that Town aren't very big compared to Wycombe, I just wanted something maybe different from a corner. Maybe a short one or a one along the ground towards the edges. But instead they were just going up in the air. Now, they were better than most corners we've seen all season because we're lucky to beat the first man. So I shouldn't really complain too much about that. But the second half, when they were getting into the right areas, the crosses changed. It was going back up into the air. Sonny Bradley were winning everything. I believe it was Matt Taylor was one of the other centre halves. He was huge. He was about 6'4". You aren't going to win the ball up in the air.
No. Well, Sonny Bradley's 6'4".
Yeah, well, Matt Taylor's even bigger then. But you've got to be doing the right things at the right times, and Town did it for the majority. But again, it's that final bit where the decision making was just wrong. The goal that Town conceded, I think I called offside when it was live. I know Sky Cameras have said, yeah, offside.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you've got to do a little bit more. Ruffles, I thought he had a superb game at centre half, and yeah, he makes a mistake, but he made up for a lot of other stuff. It could have been easily different. Undui obviously gets the goal from the edge of the area, left-footed shot. I think Nichols has got to save that. I'm sorry, I think he's got to save that. I
thought the same. Yeah,
I think Pearson has to do a little bit better defensively with it. But at the end of the day, Town didn't create anything. They created absolutely nothing. The game should have been dead and buried after 30 seconds with Ben Wiles. But 30 seconds into a game, I don't expect him to put that in the back of the net. I think, basically his first touch, it's a hard one, but it's a different story. It's an absolute different story if that goes in the back of the net. I thought the majority of the Town players played well. That game, I thought the substitutes didn't make a difference at all. And I thought Charles had a really good game, and he pretty much had a half standing ovation from the majority of the crowd. He had a goal line clearance as well, and I thought it was pretty good. But again, it's all right playing well for the first half, but you need a full 45 minutes, and you have to create something. Town didn't.
Yeah, from my understanding, it was kind of good, sort of up to a point, but then it was finishing whatever half chances we were trying to create. And seemingly we couldn't get to that point where we just couldn't finish anything. And like I said, Charles ran around a lot, apparently did, worked hard, trying to show, stuff of what he can do. Apparently Miller played all right again.
Yeah, look,
I understand. And Ruskin did all right. Apparently most of the players did all right, but they weren't amazing, but they did a solid job, and it was a better performance from my understanding. I wasn't there and you were, that from the performances that we've had in the last couple of weeks.
Look, there wasn't exactly a bad player out there, to be honest with you, Steve. Like I say, I thought the subs that came on didn't make a difference, didn't make the impact that you'd have wanted them to, and it was an okay performance. But okay performances aren't good enough against the top three side. You've got to create something, and it's all right saying you have the strikers that Town have brought in, and you've paid money for them, decent money, but at the end of the day, you've got to give them something. You've got to give them something. I don't think Charles had one opportunity. No. As hard as he worked, and as a good decent performance he put in, he had nothing.
Lou, I know that you may or may not have seen the highlights, and we did preview the Wycombe game on the Monday, or I think you guys did. Obviously, I wasn't around for the show last week, but from what I understand, you guys, when I listened to it, you were kind of saying the same as kind of what we were saying on the Sunday, that Town needed to win the Wycombe game, and it was about time that the players stood up and be counted.
Yeah. Ironically, I did watch it. I was fully committed to the channel. I had you guys on one device, I had Leeds on the other. Sorry, I mentioned a word that people on here might not like, but I was, watching some games.
It's all right, we'll forgive you.
I completely agree with Kane on the points that and what you guys are saying on the Town Talk show last week, where you felt it was a bit of a pivotal moment in the season to determine what you're going to do, against a team that are up there, but have been a little bit shaky here and there, and probably not likely to finish in that top two anymore, and not fighting to stay in the playoffs, but not far off. But there were nothing in that first half. I agree with Kane. He's again, pretty much my opinion as well. From those kind of games, it sounds very simple, but you've just got to front up and match them, because you know what Wycombe are going to do. There's no surprise with what they're going to turn out. Whether it's a Saturday or a Tuesday, they're effective at what they do. They're not pretty to watch, but they've got just strength, power, and that's how they'll get through teams. And Huddersfield matched them arguably in that first half. And I think I even put in our group on that 30 seconds when Ben Wiles missed that chance, and you just thought, that would have been a perfect start just to kind of settle the crowd, because obviously there's that little bit of nervousness with everything that's happening. It'd have been a perfect start. Tuesday night, Wycombe have travelled that long distance, everything that kind of wraps around it. You thought Huddersfield could have got off to a decent start, and obviously it just whistled past the post. But I was surprised by that reaction in the second half after being, I wouldn't say on top, but matched Wycombe. There wasn't much between both teams, but I think second half you just lacked a little bit of intensity and a little bit of nous. I thought it was poor defending. I think Pearson could have been a little bit stronger in that position. I think you normally see your centre back almost even slide in and do everything you possibly can to do that. I think he just overstepped his mark a little bit in terms of taking an extra step or two to maybe get that block in when you watch it back. Nichols, I thought position, I agree, was a little bit poor. I think the only saving grace from that, it's kind of going away from him, but it doesn't look great considering how far he's hit it away from the area. But it's disappointing, because those are the games that could potentially get you into the playoffs. If even a draw isn't a bad result against a team who were third and just stops the rot a little bit. I felt it was one of those moments in the season that, despite everything that going around and kind of on and off the pitch, it would have just stopped the rot a little bit, like I mentioned earlier, and just ease a bit of nerves and just dilute a little bit of that noise that's coming. And when you lose 1-0 at home against a team who have not had a great run of form and a team that above you, and that you may be expected to get a point off, that leads to obviously what we saw at the weekend, I think, as well.
Yeah. I think just I want to touch on something you said there, Lou, in terms of the intensity in the second half. The crazy thing is, I'm very much a football man. I love to play, I love to coach. The warm-ups between the two sides before the game, Wycombe looked on fire. They looked absolutely ready for it. And I wasn't expecting the first half, because Towns were just very cracking on, just getting on with their warm-up. But Wycombe looked really good. So the fire from Town in that first half it surprised me. And maybe I think at half-time Wycombe got a bit of a, well, what's just happened? You need to kind of wake yourselves up. And it was just a real shame. And you say a pivotal moment. It was. The players at the end of that game, when that full-time whistle went, looked absolutely deflated. Their body language, their expressions on their face, to me, that told me that they were done. Yeah. They were done with playoffs. That was everything. Just from their reaction, they were just on the feet, laid down. Just they were good, and I was good for them, because for me that was a chance. That was their biggest chance to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Thanks very much for everybody getting involved. We are going to answer your question, Keo, a little bit later on. So I know that you put that comment up even before we went live, so we will get to that. We just bring Ben in, a regular contributor to the show. Cheers, Ben. JW, hate is so unnecessary. Even Klopp would take time getting to get a tune out of these blocks. There's an unwritten rule that it takes at least a month for a team to get under a new gaffer. A Blue Teddy 19, not enough hours in a day for Worthy to sort this out. Dirty A has said, hi guys, 54 years following Town. Thought I had seen it all. Utterly shameful. We've got Adam Deal, who says, who's going to want this job? Well, we'll hopefully answer that maybe a little bit later. Ian Nichols, the club's a shambles. We've also got Craig, who says, just when you think it couldn't get worse, Craig, honestly, mate, I'm sure that you've supported the club for enough years now. You know it's always probably going to get worse. Let's be honest. Who else we've got? James. Excuse me. James says, I think we need a massive clear out and buy or loan some new players who are willing to play for Huddersfield Town than themselves. Yesterday was dreadful. Well, let's turn our attentions to yesterday. Lou, you have managed to watch the Burton highlights. There is no Huddersfield highlights. Burton highlights from yesterday. Again, I think you listened to it, and I managed to watch it on a stream. What do we say, Kane?
I did watch it. I did watch it. But interestingly, what I listened to at the same time, and this, I'm sure that person didn't watch us, but they thought the formation was 4-4-2, and it wasn't. It was supposed to be, again, as pure Worthington, as I mentioned earlier, a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. With Joe Taylor was supposed to play out wide right, but was never to be seen. Ben Wiles was supposed to be playing in the hole, but was never to be seen. And they just really lacked a balance throughout the whole system. And if you don't have that balance, you're going to be left wide open. And because Joe Taylor was nowhere to be seen on that right wing, there was just so much space for Burton to attack down that left-hand side. Sorensen was all on his own for the majority of that game.
Yeah,
especially the first half. Sorry, the first half he had to defend all of that right side because Taylor went in. Ben Wiles, did he even play?
No, he didn't.
He barely touched that ball. It was so disheartening, so disappointing. When you come away from a defeat to Wycombe where you got a win, and you go away from home and Town sell out the away, or close to selling out. They had the terrace behind the goal, and they had a section in the main stand. Terrier 1930 says it. Our warm-up yesterday at Burton was so half-assed. People are travelling and paying money here.
Yeah.
And it was a half-assed performance throughout.
Yeah.
Throughout of the game. There was, whenever I'm playing or coaching, the one thing I ask from any player when I'm a coach is work hard. Just work hard for me. If you lose by 10 and you worked hard, I'm not going to be disappointed. I'm not going to be having a go at it because you worked hard. They just did not look like they wanted to be there. They're already on the holidays. They couldn't care.
You know what it is, Kane? Sorry to interrupt, and I'll let you crack on, Soldier. Thought I keep saying this to the chaps, and hopefully you'll agree. It's not an hard job to work hard.
No,
it's not tough to do that. That's an absolute fundamental. And when players don't do that, people are within absolute rights to slate them, in my opinion.
It is. It's so frustrating, Lou. So frustrating, and that's at any level. That's grassroots kids. That's grassroots men's into semi-pro, into youth academies, into professional football. Work hard. That one thing. And if you can't do that, don't expect people to back you.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't look like they've worked hard.
To me, yesterday, it showed, like you said, that they're on the beach, but it also showed a lack of care for the shirt. And I tell you what, we've seen some pretty crap Town sides over the years, but one thing that you can always say is, normally, pretty much, is that they try. I've said to a number of people that sit around me in the stadium and other fans over messaging and social media and stuff, I genuinely think that this season and the one that we've just seen is the worst I've ever seen at Town since 2009, since I started supporting the club. And yesterday was an epitome of the last 2 years. To me, it was no quality, no care, no thought, and no fighting for the shirt. And not even that, Kane, not even fighting for each other. Like, don't just, lads, Don't just play for us. Play for like a bit of pride in yourselves.
Yeah, I thought Hogg tried. Thought Hogg give it his all.
He was the only one.
I thought he looked quite emotional throughout, especially
Yeah.
that second half. And his bit of an interview that I watched with Radio Leeds, he looked gutted. He looked absolutely gutted.
Devastated. He would. Let's say it right. He was devastated.
He was.
The fact that 6 years ago he was playing against Man United, City, Chelsea, fighting for promotion and all the rest of it, and now we've gone and lost 3-0 to a, let's be honest, a very hard-working but crap Burton Albion team. That's how devastated Oggy was yesterday.
Burrell had that back four in his pocket.
On toast, mate.
He had the look. He doesn't have that much quality, but as you've said, he works hard, and it's funny though, isn't it? Though he doesn't have that much quality, but he has 2 goals.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I've seen him a couple of times. I'm not his greatest fan. Yeah,
2 goals. He had Pearson in his back pocket. He kept away from Russell's because he clearly using his head going, well, Pearson's slow, I'll just stick on him. And it would just fall off. It was waiting for somebody else to do the job for them. And again, you go back to it, you go, why are you waiting for somebody else? Go and take charge of the game. Go take charge of your responsibility. Stop waiting for somebody else. I think it was the 3rd goal, which really annoyed everybody. No, actually,
second. It was the second. I'm going to come on to that. Can we just go through a little bit of dissecting though?
Okay, go on.
Lou, I'll come to you. For the first goal, it's a minute into the game. It's about, 2 minutes into the game, something like that. They get an early corner and they whip it in. And we've had it loads this season where we've had goals scored against us very early in games. It happened a couple of weeks ago against Charlton. Now, Charlton are a decent team in this league. Burton put the ball in. It was headed. And there's about 3 Town players that go nowhere near the ball. And the Burton guy just tapped it in past Nichols at the far post. What's going on there for the first goal, if we're being totally honest?
It's not the first time I've seen this with Huddersfield a lot this season where set pieces look very vulnerable. And I think that's a big concern, especially when it's happening on a regular occurrence. I've seen it with various teams I've seen across various seasons, and you think that sometimes I might just learn a lesson or you'd identify it as a weak spot. So that will be one of the first things you do on a training pitch is to almost say, right, we know this is not our strongest area. Teams do have that. You know, they're going to have pros and cons in different areas, but set pieces are absolutely critical to the way that the game is set out, you know, in general play. And I think they're so underrated, the set pieces. It's one of my things about football where if you're strong in a set piece, you're likely to be at the right end of the table and doing well. And you've got to be clinical in both boxes. And I've seen that with Town where they just look a little bit mentally weak from that perspective. There's so much wrong with the goals. The first goal, there's so much wrong with that. You know, you've got a chance to clear it. You've got one guy, you've got Sorensen pinned by striker who turns, again, far too easily. So close, you know, does Nichols make himself bigger? Again, there's so many little intricate details that you can go into that should be done better. What I see is, and I know we're going to dissect the game a little bit more, but harking back to what we're talking about, Wycombe, and working hard and for the shirt, maybe from an outside perspective, but you've done it for 45 minutes or so against Wycombe. You've done it on the odd occasion during the season, and that's why fans and the comments that we're getting through, if people are either feeling a bit embarrassed by what they're seeing, they feel they've never felt so low in all this time, because they can turn it on like a tap, and then for other games, it seems like it's turned off. You can't do that as a player. You just can't do it. And regardless of what people say about being paid all this kind of money and stuff, I'm kind of in that mentality where pretty much 99.9% of people are not going to support the team that they play for. That's fine. It's a job, ultimately, like we all do. Even though it's a blooming great job and we all wish we could do it. But fight for each other. There's a bit of pride and a bit of team spirit for each other. You don't have to necessarily fight for the badge, but fight for each other, because that's your group. That's your group that you've got to stick together with for 46 plus more games of a season, whether it's cup, league, etc. And show a bit of pride within yourself. And what I've seen on them highlights and seen some games, not just Huddersfield, but other teams, but when we talk focusing on Huddersfield, is exactly what you saw on Saturday, where, again, we'll come to that second goal, but you throw yourself at them challenges. You make yourself big. If you're standing up and fronting yourself up to these players in League One, because League One's got a certain quality, but it's also got some of its weaknesses, and we know where the strengths are in some of these teams. Be strong. You know what I mean? It's not difficult. Like we said, it's not difficult to work hard, and it's not difficult to be physically stronger than the other team around you. Burton are fighting for their lives. Huddersfield are up towards the right end of the table, even though it's not looking likely to get in the playoffs. But there's obviously a difference in quality across the general season. So, probably 7 times out of 10, you're probably expecting Huddersfield to get something out of that instead of just stunk the place out. So that first goal is exactly epitome of probably what you've had across the season. And then because of that goals in, heads have gone down and you've gone through the rest of that game. But, if I'm a player in that situation, I'd be just looking at each other and, I'm seeing comments here, where the leaders, where's this, that, and the other. I 100% agree. 100% agree.
Well, I was just going to
call each other out. What do you want as a team? You've got to have 3, 4, 5 leaders, potentially a bit more on that pitch, saying, what on earth are you doing, allowing that set piece to come like that, to defend like that? Or if you're going to do that, then you say, right, let's write it off, forget it, now let's kick on. Instead, you suffered a 3-0 defeat and it was lucky to be 3.
Yeah. I think it would, obviously Hogg was the main instinct, the first goal from the corner. It's Hogg. He's lost his man. He's turned his back. He's lost his man. Yeah, the defender shouldn't be pinned after that. And I was going to say it, but Phil Jean has. We miss Hellick. Tal miss Hellick. That's your leader at the back. Actually organises your set pieces with your goalkeeper defensively. Organises your set pieces as an attacker. Organises that back line. Massive loss. Huge.
We'll come on to the second goal now. Obviously, leaders have been mentioned here. Just want to bring up some more comments. Blue Teddy 19 says, Town need a manager who will go into the dressing room and have a go at them. Yep, they're mentally weak. I think me and Kane have pointed that out on many times this season. So this is for the second goal.
Steve,
Adam Deals.
Just before that, when you've got players who are mentally weak, I'll be honest with you, the last thing that you want is someone coming in shouting and screaming at you. You have to do it at the right time. You have to pick your moments. Right now, these players they don't need a shouting at, they need the look, where you give them a look where you go, come on. And then you need come on, lads. Pick them up, arm round them, confidence. Tell them how good they are. You can do this, you can do that. You are good enough to do this. Let's get it. You've got to find small wins. Find just a very, very small win. If that win is making one complete pass, take that as a win. Move on to your next one. Can you make another one? Little wins build confidence. Coming in, shouting and bawling when currently now have nothing to play for, or when they know they've been poor, it's just going to make it worse. It really is just going to make it worse. I
don't think there's anything now that anybody will say that will make this season better, to be honest.
No, but when you're speaking to players, it's about, sometimes, don't get me wrong, shouting and bawling, the hairdryer treatment works, but not all the time. You have to pick that moment. And again, like I was saying with Lou earlier, if they're not working hard enough, then that might be right, come on, let's have a bit more. But when we start to talk about quality and wanting a bit more purpose in the game, it has to be more about building them up and being an arm round. I know not everyone agrees with that, but trust me, it works so much better.
Phil just put there about he was there yesterday and saw that the warm-up was shocking, and I think that's to do with professionalism and pride. Just want to bring up a few more here. So Ben says that he's been supporting the club since 2011, never felt more embarrassed to support the football club. Ian's been going since the 60s, and it's the worst football he's ever witnessed. Kaza says teamwork is meant to be the dream work. However, Huddersfield don't look like they even want the ball. It's upsetting that they don't look like they want to play. But yeah, let's go on to the second goal quickly, and then we can sort of round up the Burton game. The second goal, Lou, for me, I genuine to God, I said this to my dad, that might be one of the worst goals I've seen Huddersfield Town concede in my time supporting the football club. I genuinely think I could have done better defending that goal.
I don't disagree. I think it's a joke of a goal to concede. It's one where if you're a player, you're looking back and you're involved in that whole build up to the play, even before it gets to the point of where, it's going to get magnified. It should be stopped at the root cause, first of all. And if it's not stopped at the root cause, just stand your ground, put a tackle in. You know what I mean? It should. There's no words. We could get everybody commenting in now because we'd all say the same thing. That shouldn't be allowed to happen. You should not be allowed to get through.
Four of them. Four players.
Very little of a real attempt to properly make a tackle and going, I'm going to win that ball. I understand that there's a person running with a ball and there's a little bit of a thing in your back of your mind thinking, if I trip him up, it might be a penalty. But you know what? At least you might have a chance to save it. But you've just got to stick a foot in. You've got to be strong. This is this whole, Kane said it a few weeks ago, mentality, stand up for each other. This is your group. Whether somebody misses a tackle doesn't mean you go and miss that tackle as well. It's a bit of communication. Just do the basics. Just do the basics and put a tackle in. At least if guys have put a tackle in, it's ricocheted off the defender, it's gone back into the guy's foot and he's put it in the corner. At least you can go, that was really unfortunate. Could have done a bit better, but look, we made an attempt to really try and make an effort to stop that ball going through. But it's honestly, I mean, crikey, there's all the memes going across into, but you watch it every time and it doesn't get any better. And listen, I'm an Huddersfield Town fan, and even that just really angers me. Just watching football on a consensus where I very rarely see that happen. And I think what makes it to that point where it's exaggerated is one, the context of where Huddersfield Town are in the moment, and also how that first half has gone. And like Kane said at half time, you cannot tell me Worthington or the rest of the guys have looked at each other and going, we're not going to put a challenge in the second half. We're going to let them walk through us. That doesn't happen in a dressing room. That's just your own personal pride that stands now in that second half to stand up and be wanted. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I'll let Kane and you guys, you chaps, talk because I've got nothing else to say other than it was just pretty disgraceful to watch.
Yeah, Kane, obviously, the fact that he's waltzed through four players and then quite easily put it past Nichols. I mean, you don't even see that defending at non-league level. I genuinely don't think you do.
Yeah.
No, you do.
No, all right. But it's about that same standard.
You got to talk about and look at technique.
No, I know what you mean. I'm joking.
You got to look at your technique. When a player is running hard at you with the ball in that situation, that area, it's always hard. But you've got to get in front of him. I'm not talking about taking him out, but you've got to get in front of him, force them somewhere, force them left, force them right, force them away from the goal. Get yourself nice and low, and don't let them come diagonally towards that goal line, towards that penalty area, towards the goal. You can't do it. But Town, I'm only going to repeat what everything's been said. So I'm going to try not to. But you have to get low. You have to get in front of that person and force them one way or the other. But no one did. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, it was looking around going, is someone else going to deal with that? Because I'm not, or I've not dealt with it when I should have done. So are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? All right, they scored. Yeah, it sounds, yeah. It was just so, we were just waiting for something to happen. And that's what it has just constantly been. Just waiting and waiting and waiting. And the problem is, Town players are waiting too long. Gone.
Two last points.
You know what it is? Sorry, Downsy, to interrupt. I didn't make this point in my point, and I could be massively off the mark on this. But it's one of those situations where you see during a game that a player's trying to force his way through, And he might even think about getting a penalty. And I think he's almost surprised himself. He's gone through the 2 challenges like that. Because sometimes you see them situations where the centre forward tries to break through the defence and he might go down and almost go down and look at refereeing officials going, that's a penalty. But instead, he's actually found himself just easily going through the pair of them and going, oh, I can score here. Yeah. You know, I mean, how many times out of 100 is that going to happen? Probably once or twice. So I think he's actually gone to look for a penalty until he's realised he can actually score.
And for me, Lou, it's, you know, on this podcast again, and something I like to talk about is direct football. And there's a difference between direct football 20 years ago and direct football now. Yeah. For me, direct football is getting the ball in that, once you're in the final third, running at a player. There's nothing more dangerous than someone running at you with a ball. As you mentioned, the player's already potentially looking for a penalty, or he's in the box and he can take a shot. Pick one, whenever one you want. Take a shot, gets deflected, goes out for a corner. Gets deflected, goes to another man. Gets deflected, hits an arm. Being direct in that kind of situation, running at somebody, it is so fierce. It is so fierce at any kind of level. And Town don't do it enough. And for some reason, they've let other teams do it to them.
Yeah. So, 2 last points on the Burton game before we wrap this small section up. Joe Taylor Kane was subbed at half-time, probably wisely for Worthy, due to the fact that he was winding himself up going into tackles. Could have been sent off, looking back at the challenge that he did put in, stamped on the Burton player's leg. I mean, he just looks a very, very frustrated character right now, doesn't it? And, you know, I know a lot was made at the fact that, you know, people were saying, oh, well, he's making lazy tackles and not really. But to be fair, like, yes, that is true. And he could have done a lot better, as could all of the players on Saturday. But I do think there's also a fair point that we're just not giving him a chance as a team. We've bought him for $3 million. And I don't think in the games that he's played, I don't think he's hardly had any attempts on goal because we're not using him properly like we should be.
Well, there you go. That what you've just said there, not using him properly. £3 million striker was made to play right wing yesterday.
Yeah.
He's out of position. He don't want to be out there. Town aren't creating enough for him when he's in a central position. Never mind wide right. I was really disappointed that Worthy had actually played him on right wing. I was really disappointed. I would have preferred to see him come off the bench. He was wound up already because he didn't want to play there. You just know that. If a player starts the way he did, you know he don't want to be there. And then what he continued to do told me even more that he didn't want to play there because he didn't want to work track back. He did at times, but he didn't want to. He did it lethargically. And then what is he doing? What is he doing? He stood on him. He didn't stamp on him, but he stood on him on purpose.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. It was a stand on purpose. It wasn't a stamp, but he definitely stood on him on purpose. And I think the decision to bring him off at half time actually needs to be applauded because it takes some kahunas to take off your biggest signing in a good few years. Supposed to be star striker off at half time for a performance like that. Some people in charge would go, well, I can't do that because we've paid so much money for them, so they've got to stay on. But he deserved to be brought off. It was poor. Now the change, what was the change? Balka came on in the place of him. I didn't understand that.
No, I didn't. I said to my dad, like, we're 2-0 down and we brought a defender on for a striker.
But then the shape again just went even worse. It was just even worse. It were playing like a 3 without a left back in the back line, a midfield 2 and a 1 and a 3 again. It was just all over the place. That was definitely one of the most disappointing performances for shape wise I've seen in a long, long time.
I think by the 60th minute of the game, they'd just written the game off. To be honest, you could just tell. Nobody wanted to be there. The only people that wanted to be there were the supporters, and that was to boo them at the end. And that brings me nicely on to my next point, which is to wrap the game up. at the end of the game, Lou, I don't know if you would have seen the videos on social media, but the players came over at the end to clap, and obviously all throughout the game. And I must say that the people that I have spoke to that were at the game, people like Aiden who sits in front of me, big shout out to him. He was saying that, sort of describing the fact that there were chants throughout the game about Cartwright being get out of our club, not fit to wear the shirt, and then at the end of the game, the players came over, sort of half-arsed clap the fans, but the one player that didn't was Matty Pearson, who as soon as the final whistle went down the tunnel. Like, to me, I'm sorry, like the players should collectively get the money together to pay the supporters back that have been to that game on Saturday. Just the atmosphere and the toxicity apparently in the away end was horrific. It was described to me as one of the worst toxic atmospheres for a long time at Huddersfield Town fixture.
The problem is that toxicity is there before the ball's been even kicked. And obviously we've seen comments there about the warm-ups not being great. Kane's recognised that against Wycombe. Guys in here have commented about this one at obviously the Burton game. It's weird, isn't it? Why is Pearson just walked off like that?
Don't really get this comment, by the way, but fair play.
Cheers, thanks. While he strokes his beard. Yeah, I think it's a strange one why Pearson walked off. As a human being, you can understand it because you don't want to get abused. But also at the same point, again, it's that whole group mentality. You've got to stick up for each other. You've got to stand up, be wanted. I'm not in the camp of grouping together and refunding fans because fans have got a choice to go to games. There's no objectivity of going to a game and knowing that you're going to get your money's worth. That's a choice that you make. There's extraordinary circumstances that you could go, we might think of doing some kind of gesture, but, crikey, fans will be wanting refunds nearly every week at the moment. So they might have no wage left. But I
think they will. I think they will, Lou. But yeah, I get your point.
It's surprising to see what Pearson did. The players aren't going to like it, but then again, to respect that, that's your job in some respects, and you've got to front up and get it. But then, like people wanting managers to go in and give the big what for at half times, and then, like Kane says, you've got to manage your players as delicately as you can because mentally they're just so fragile at the moment, and the performances are saying that. There's going to be a lot said. There's a lot being said, obviously, about Pearson at the moment, which isn't going to go down really well with a lot of people. It won't be the first time that some players do that. It won't be the last. But fans are entitled to what they say because they pay the money within reason. There's not, that is your thing as a football fan. If you go and you pay your money, you have a right to an opinion at the ground within reason. And players have got to accept that. End of.
Dirty A wants a refund even without going. I mean, that would text them. I love the comments we get here. To be fair, there is a serious point. Ian, who obviously goes up and down the land, I'm getting angry with this club. I mean, Kane, that is probably the comment that does it, innit? There's a lot of anger in there around.
Yeah, there's a lot of anger. I also agree with Lou. Look, as a fan, you go and support. It don't matter. If your team loses every game in the season, you go away because that's your club. That's what you do. But I also think that players should always go and thank the supporters for their support, regardless of how bad they've been on the field, whether they're embarrassed, whether they're frustrated, whether they're disappointed, whether they're angry with themselves. Everything that they do on that pitch for 90 minutes is for them fans who have travelled 6 hours there and home, or wherever. It can be half an hour, it can be 7 hours, whatever. You have to go and go thank them supporters, regardless. I think the players are broken. They're absolutely broken.
I agree.
And
yeah,
maybe Matty Pearson is a bit more broken than what we can see. He does pop up with a goal here and there. I think he's been a decent performer over the last couple of years. but I think his attitude with the fans is because I don't think he's expected the fans to be the way they have. And I think that's just the whole thing. You know, as you mentioned, people are angry. People are angry because they didn't expect Huddersfield Town to be in this situation. They didn't expect Huddersfield Town to have to try and be fighting for playoffs and then not even fight to play on a 90-minute game. They're not even there. Like, playoffs are gone. Playoffs are gone. People are angry because Town were in the Premier League a few years ago. Now, don't get me wrong. Town are not a Premier League club. They're not a Premier League club. They were just about becoming a steady championship club, in my opinion. And that might turn heads, but that's where they will be coming at. At the moment, people are angry because Town are starting to become a League One club again.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair comment. Like and this was in our WhatsApp chat the other day. You know, I've never said Huddersfield Town should be a Premier League club. I've never even said Huddersfield Town should be a top-end championship club. What I have said, though, consistently over the time that I've supported the club and with the ambitions of not just Dean Oil, but then the other owners that we've had, is that Town should be a middle-of-the-road championship football club and every couple of years have a playoff team. That's what should happen. And we should be what Ipswich were doing for years and years and years and years before, obviously, that their current rise.
Steve, hold on. Do you know what? As a fan, do you know what I want?
To win football matches.
A set of players that are going to go out there and work hard every single game.
Yeah,
that's all you want. That is all you want. Whether that's in League Two, League One, Championship, Premier League, non-league, whatever. If you're going to support your team, you want them to go out there and work as hard as they can, and so that the money that you've paid for your ticket is appreciated a little bit more. That's it.
100% agree, mate. And I'll kind of make a comparison with some of the games that I've watched in previous years, where at non-league level, listen, there's a vast difference between non-league and League One, but the sentiment's the same. I've watched a team that I helped volunteer with years and years ago. The players, from a quality perspective, were never really good enough, but the starting point was they worked hard. They worked hard. Every game you knew they were putting a shift in. And they were losing 3-0, 2-0 every other week, weren't winning games. And it was really difficult because as a fan that you were going at the time, people were going, we can't criticise the actual commitment. People were getting behind the team because they were fighting for each other. My point again, weren't fighting for the badge because they're never going to be a fan of that club, but they were fighting for each other and a manager. They just weren't good enough. But that's your foundation, that's your base that you work from. And then once you get that hard work and built in your squad, then you can build around that. And yes, people complain out the quality's not there. I was one of them. But also, there's a bit of chicken and egg between it. You're working hard, the quality's not there, but you're giving yourself something to work with. At the moment, I'm seeing with the likes of Huddersfield Town where you've got quality, but you're not working hard enough. Quality can only get you so far. And, you know, in League One, with respect, you can probably carry a couple of players, 3 players, maybe every game, but you can't be carrying over half your team, which is what, on some occasions, you're seeing.
As I said right at the start of the show, Keogh did ask a question, so we'll move on from Burton. And then I want to ask a couple of key questions before we take a very, very quick look at Cambridge coming up on Good Friday. Keogh asked a question right at the beginning of the podcast, even before we came on air. He says, this should be an interesting one. I hope you found it an interesting podcast, Keogh. Question, what do you think Warnock would have achieved if they'd have come in instead of John Worthington? I know it's hypothetical, but could it have made a difference? Kane, come to you for that.
I think it'd have been exactly the same. I don't see anyone coming in. I thought Worthy was really going to make a difference. I think for me, in terms of shape and formation, he has. If you watch this pod religiously, you'll know I wasn't a fan of the old shape, and I think that's been a good difference for me. But I still expected more, and I'm not getting it. So I don't really think Warnock would have done too much else. I don't think it'd have made too much of a difference. I think he'd have won the games that Worthington has won. I think he'd have lost the games that Worthington has. I think a mentality as a whole, as a club right now is low. and you can talk about Warnock coming back in again. Would he have even done that? Because he'd have probably still, if he, right, Warnock comes in instead of Wormington now, how do you think he's feeling after he was let go last time? You think he was right bothered?
No, exactly. And we're a League One club, so he wouldn't have come back in anyway. Lou, where does Worthy go now? Obviously, 5 games left. You know, for me, what Worthy should do, and this is just my opinion, he should go to Kevin Nagle and go, thanks very much for the opportunity. I'm not getting the best out of the players because some of them obviously don't want to be here anymore, and they're mentally gone. The squad is finished. So what I'll do is, the last 5 games, I'll leave it up to Kevin Russell or whoever else wants to. Now, don't want to do this, but this is what I would do if I were him. And I will go back to the academy job. And I'd just leave the first team to do whatever they need. Do you know what? I'd just leave it to Hoggy to run it. I know that's a mad suggestion, but if I were the coaching staff, I wouldn't want to be involved with this group of players because of how it could affect my career going forward as somebody in the industry. So what I would do is I'd say, look, lads, you obviously are not really listening to what we're telling you. So we're just going to leave it up to you as players to sort out that. You're going to have to sort out training. You're going to have to. It won't happen, but that's what I'd do. I know that's a mad suggestion, Lou, but I genuinely, for the last 5 games, that's what I'd do.
Yeah, I think you're mad by saying something like that. Listen, my thoughts.
Worthy doesn't need it, Lou. Worthy's only doing it because he loves the football club to bits, and he's been asked to do a job that he's never going to not turn down because of the pride that himself. Yeah. He stood on the touchline there, 3-0 against Burton, thinking, what is going on? What is happening in my world right now? You don't need it. Why does he need the stress? Sorry.
No, you're right. I think so. My opinion, a couple of things for me is, my thoughts on some of the stuff previously. I think the players have got to take a lot of accountability and a lot of responsibility for this. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. Would Duff have been exactly in the same situation? Probably. But then again, obviously, they've made that call to make that change because you think what they were going to do was going to give them a better chance of playoffs. Somebody like Worthy's going to do it, like you said, for the love of the club, and that he probably knows he's going to walk into the academy now. Obviously, he thinks himself as an individual as part of a wider club, and the club's more important than an individual, which is right. He's got to also look after himself selfishly as well, because there's a reputational risk with him. Whether he wants to potentially go for the permanent role or not, he's got to go back to the academy, and with greatest respect to the academy lad's going to go, you didn't do right well there in terms of first team. Again, you've got to think yourself selfishly. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but young kids up and coming are looking up as role models, and they probably might not recognise Jonathan Worthington as a player of Huddersfield Town and puts X amount in for what he did in the past and is a bit of a legend. They'll see him maybe as a coach, with a tiny bit of context. He isn't going to give up. I know what you're saying. He isn't going to give up that role until the end of the season. He's been asked to do a job. I can imagine he's the kind of chap that will see the job through. After listening to him on the interview, I actually listened to it on the way back home yesterday from another game. He sounded frustrated. I could be wrong on this. I think he's not saying everything because he's still got to keep that group together as much as he possibly can, because there's still, in their opinion, a bit of glimmer of hope that they might get something from this season, even though it's not to be expected. But there's still something to mathematically fight for. So he's not going to come out into the press and slay and tell everything behind the scenes. That ain't going to happen. Like Jonathan Hogg, in my opinion, you could sense there was something there, but they're not going to come out in the press and say it. 100%. What goes behind closed doors is there. Yeah. For me, Jonathan Worthington, I think, has got an opportunity now to influence the hierarchy, whoever that may be, which we'll probably come on to later, is to identify those players and the blueprint of what Huddersfield should look like for the next 2-3 years and what they need to do to get the club out of League One. I think he probably, knowing how football works, probably knows that this squad is nowhere near good enough to go up out the League One. But he recognises the traits of what it's going to take to get out of this league. So I think in the back of his mind, he can do some really shrewd homework in the background and be that handover between the next manager and going, actually, this is what I've discovered. When times have got a bit toxic and stuff's not going right, these are the players I've been able to count on. And these players, actually, I've not been able to count on. That's the way I think Worthington should play it.
Ken?
Just to go back to what you said at first for that, Steve, that is just mad.
I know it's mad. No, I'm accepting it's mad. But I think just my opinion, what Worthy should do.
That is proper Sunday League stuff.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying though is for Worthy's own reputation and his own
here's a chance now.
Mental health.
Right. Worthy can use this as a learning curve. Go have the rest of the games, learning curve for his own future. I think he would be smart to take this, see what it is, go back to the academy, think about things. Lou spoke about his future as well. Don't forget Worthy's a local lad. Yeah. If he loses his role as the academy manager and it doesn't go well for him at town, he's then searching again for a new job, which I know he absolutely loves it in the academy. But this is a great way to learn. Great way to learn as a coach, as a manager, a situation that he's never been in before, having to manage, learn and adapt with players that potentially don't want to be there. What I found with Worthington's last couple of press conferences and stuff after games is quite short. A bit saying what Lou says. They don't want to say, they can't say too much because you can't. You've still got games to play here. And I feel as if there's a lot going on that in all terms of football, if something's going on, it doesn't come out. It can't come out because you can't let people know. It stays within inside, and it is a real shame. But I do think that Town need to get something ready for the summer. I would have loved Worthy to be successful in this little period of time. I don't know whether it's a mixture of him and the players, or whether it's him or it's the players. I think it's the players that are an issue. I think there's some bad eggs in there, despite the fact that I think there's a lot of quality. I think there's some bad eggs, but I'll go back to my point that I made earlier. You've got to work hard, and I remember I used to have this argument all the time when Town were in the Championship going up towards the Premier League. Elias Kachunga or Robin van der Para. I'd have Kachunga in every day of the week because he worked hard, despite the fact that Van der Para was so much better quality-wise. You just want some hard workers, and it's getting back to them basics to try and get them players to work hard. Whether Worthington can do that or not, I don't know. I'd like to think he could, but I think the board have got a massive job on their hands making the right decision, because a lot's gonna ride on it. And I think what will ride on it is the next 10 years of the football club. Yeah,
I mean, we've said that over the last couple of appointments, though, unfortunately, and they've got them wrong or it's not worked out. And by the way, just to go back, I know that what I suggested is madness. I do get that, but I just feel that. Do you know what I feel? I feel sorry for Worthy, and I feel sorry for Hoggy. All right, didn't play very well on in at some points this season, and Worthy's probably made some mistakes. But the two characters that after the game you can tell are absolutely devastated with what's going on at the football club, and to me that speaks volumes. There's two individuals that have come out after the game and fronted up, and both said it's unacceptable what's going on. And like Lou says, you could probably tell that they wanted to say more than they did, but they can't. And that's what I feel.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sorry, just got across down to it. And the reason why I'm asking this is because you guys go week in, week out. You see it. People commenting and viewing is great to see. I'm going to ask a really simple question. Is Jonathan Worthington a right man to take Huddersfield Town forward as manager next season?
No. Not in my opinion. He's not experienced enough. And to me, he's the right sort of character that you want in your academy.
And the reason why I'm asking, and I know Kane, I get it, and your cogs have seen it. And the reason why I'm asking this is because of the hierarchy, whether people have got the feelings and whatnot, and the fans are there in numbers to back them. They've trusted Worthy to get them over the line in the playoffs for these final 2 games. They've put the trust in him over Michael Duff, for instance, to take them that way. So if you've put in that trust in somebody like Worthington to get them across, I know it can be a bit different, but that's my question is, if they think they can trust him for 10 games, there's no reason why they might not potentially trust him for the next season.
I think for me, Steve, you said didn't have the experience. Corberan didn't have the experience. Wagner didn't have the experience as such. I think with Worthington, what you get is someone local who knows what the fans want, and that could just be huge. That could be massive. Knows what the fans want and can put that onto the players to do so, which again is just working hard for each other. And if he was given the opportunity with a pre-season, he would get that across, providing he had the support from the board and the directors to get out the right players and get in the right players. I think he would. That's what Worthington would bring more than any other manager. He gets the club. He gets what the fans want. But
we went through this with Danny Schofield. It absolutely ripped his heart out when we had to sack him after seven games of the season, and we lost to Doncaster in the cup or something.
Yeah, but I don't think Danny Schofield was playing the right shape, the right formation. It was shocking. It were poor.
Yeah,
but Steve also, he played differently to what he was playing under Corberan when he was just a coach. Things worked under Corberan as a coach like that, and Danny Schofield changed it. He didn't need to change it.
But he was a local lad, played for the football club, was a legend of the football club because of what he'd achieved in 2004.
Yeah, it was. But again, sometimes
why is Worthy different?
Sometimes football is very, very simple, and people make it out to be more complicated than what it is, right? Playing a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 is a very, very good, simple formation that people get behind. Fans understand it. Fans know how that is played. Fans know that working hard in that formation gets results, gets fans off seats, gets people there. Playing 3 at the back and 5 across midfield with no one to attack, leaving yourself wide open because the players aren't good enough, aren't smart enough football-wise to play at a 3 at the back, to play at the 5 at the back.
But
Schofield changed it when he came in. He didn't need to. Duff came in and did that. It was the wrong thing to do. It left town wide open. Worthington comes in, changes it a bit. Okay, it's not happening as much from as I expect it would. But with a pre-season, like Schofield had, with a pre-season, you get that point across of what the fans want. Town are at a situation now where, yes, they need to go up, but they also need to get fans back on side.
Listen, like, any Huddersfield Town fan wants Jonathan Worthington to do well. There's no Huddersfield Town fan out there that wants Worthy to do badly. I would prefer it if he went back and did his academy job and spoke about the passion of playing for the football club and working at the football club to those younger players and inspiring them to try and get through to the first team. He's been doing a good job in the academy. I just think Town, with where they are now, they need somebody either experienced or somebody from totally left field like we did with Wagner and Corberan, that it just changes everything. And I think I understand what you're saying, Kane, but he's not getting the best out of the lads now. And we've just seen the worst game of the season by far. Anyway, let's move it on. Because we'll be here all night. We'll go on.
Lou's got something to say.
No, the reason I'm asking also.
Yeah, don't act like you're all like peed off and that you're going to be something like sort of like.
I just want to know. I want to hear. I want to hear.
No, and the reason why I'm asking a question as well is, look, we know the consensus from majority of Town fans and what everything out of context. So potentially, if you put Worthington in next season, he has an opportunity to. He knows the players now. He knows who the ones he wants to probably keep and the ones he wouldn't. Also, rightly or wrongly, he's also probably got a better pass at the moment in the hierarchy. So how can I put this? I want to be brutally honest about this. If you put Worthington in charge for next season, does that potentially allay some of the fears from the fans and the comments? Because one, it puts bums on seats because you need to sell season tickets and all that's kicking around, and you've got a Town lad in charge and you dug out and you back him. And also would be a possibility that Worthington may stick around a little bit longer than us at the top. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, but I think we hear you. I know.
So this is what I'm saying. As a football fan, would you potentially want Worthington to come in that, in terms of what you might not like see happening at the moment, he might stay a little bit longer potentially, which is a bit weird to say in his current football climate, because normally managers go a bit for hierarchy, but you know that fans are going to back Worthington to the absolute hilt.
For me, I think the decision's with him. That's where I think where they're at, where the club's at. I think the decision is with John, and it's whether he wants to take it or not. That's where I think the club's at.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it is his decision ultimately,
it's a massive decision. It's huge. He says that it's the rest of his life.
If he says yes and it goes badly next season, he's got to understand that he can't then walk back to his academy job.
Well, he could do. He could put a clause in his contract.
Yeah, he could do. But
he could do.
Let's be honest.
I would.
Yeah, you would do. But it's like what Lou says. If he fails as first team manager, and it goes badly next season, then Lou's probably right. He can't then walk back into the academy because
no. With respect, Danzy, I never. With respect, dude, I never kind of said that. I actually think he could potentially go back into the academy role.
But you just said that you said a while ago that younger players then won't see his authority and that, like you said, like you did say that academy players then would go, well, you made a mess of that.
It depends. It depends on how the season goes, though. Depends how that campaign goes under Worthington. There's so many ifs and buts and context around that. The players that we are currently managing the academy may be moved on because of age and might move on and he might get another intake in. But it depends on the context of what that looks like. I wouldn't surprise me if he was your manager next season at the moment, being honest.
If I were Worthy,
it's a cheap appointment.
Yeah, if I were Worthy, I'd be saying, look, I'll take the job, but I want a clause. If I get sacked, I want to go back to academy.
100%. Be selfish. Look after yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah. Just one of the comments as well. Dirty A says that we don't care who's in charge. We want entertainment and passion. That's entertainment, passion, hard work is what any Huddersfield Town fan wants.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I publicly apologise, Lou, for putting words into your mouth, which I didn't.
Thank you. It's about time you apologised.
All right. I don't apologise now. Let's just get rid of him. Let's have some comments. Ben here says, on reflection, maybe Warnock would have got a tune out of these lot in the last 10 games, but Nagel blew that right out the window and doesn't surprise anyone. Ian says, bring back the old favourite attacking 4-4-2. I'm sure Ken would absolutely love that. We've got Adam here who says the club's looks a joke. So getting someone to come in who's any good is a damn good job. Now, that is the whole problem that we have, Kane. The fact that there is only 5 games left. If Worthy goes at the end of the season, well, it's not for me, which is fine if that's what he says that he wants to do. Like, nobody's coming in now for 5 games, is it? No, there isn't a manager out there that is coming in for 5 games. And as we've discussed before, you know, who is out there? Who is out there that people want?
Well, no one is going to come in for 5 games. We know that. That's not going to happen. It's about who's coming in for next year, and we just don't know. We just do not know, Steve.
But you want Worthy. You out of
I
everybody.
wouldn't say no to him. I wouldn't say no to him. No, and again, if a man, it depends what the manager's bringing. Lou said earlier, and I've said this before on a different pod, a different one of that we do. In terms of what is the identity, what is the style, who's choosing that style, where's it coming from? Because that is so important. Because Town don't have one, don't have an identity at the moment. They don't have a style. They don't have anything. That is the first and foremost. So if you get yourselves an identity as a club, then you can tailor, you can filter what kind of manager you bring in, providing that identity is the right one for Huddersfield Town.
Yeah,
that's the most important thing.
That I agree is important, because we've had people like Fotheringham coming before, and like genuinely, you look on the pitch and you don't know what's happening. Adam says here, I think JW would be another Danny Schofield. I'm not saying that he would be. What I'm saying is, I don't want to happen to Worthy what happened to Danny Schofield, because
I think
you know they're both legends of the football club.
Completely fair, mate. Completely fair. I think there's a bigger piece about Huddersfield Town at the moment, where the club and the fans and the players need to reconnect with each other. And yes, results and wins will absolutely do that, but it can cover up the cracks. And I think there's a bigger holistic piece where Huddersfield Town need to come together a lot more, because I'm seeing comments on here, I've seen comments on social media over in recent weeks and months where fans have never felt so disconnected with the club for various reasons. You've got to build that connection before you take that next step up, because you could easily next season go up to the Championship, and sometimes it could be the worst thing you could do. You could almost go a little bit too ahead of yourselves. You need to get everything set together and everybody on the same page, and I don't feel that's fair at the moment. I'm not saying Worthington does that, I'm just playing devil's advocate, but I think there's a lot more work to do, and somebody like Worthington is a big fan's favourite, and that will sing to the hierarchy at the moment, because they need to connect with fans.
Yeah. Ken, obviously there has been, like we said, chanting at the game with various chants such as Cartwright out. I mean, Lou does say, he's spot on there, that there is a massive divide between the whole football club at the moment. The players that either don't really care or don't want to be there, the manager that does care and would do anything for the football club, in Worthy. You've got, people behind the scenes that are good, hard-working people that live in the town, that live here in the local area, that have supported the club for many years, that are frustrated clearly with what's going on. And then you've got the fan base that doesn't identify with 90%, 95% of the squad. And one thing that I would always say is, looking down every team down the years, even under Chris Powell, very nice man, by the way, just not the greatest at football coaching at Huddersfield Town. There was players in that squad that you could identify with, Clayton, Connor Cody, people like that. There is nobody in this squad apart from Hoggy that people identify with anymore. And I think that's a really sad state of affairs, isn't it?
So why did you relate with them players?
Well, because they
worked hard.
Yeah,
they worked hard.
Exactly. Yeah. It's an obvious thing. Yeah.
It's very simple, Steve. It is very, very simple. It's because they worked hard. I'm going to call on Adam Deal anyway, because he says he's got a good record on Football Manager. But
okay,
because everyone is so.
How do you know this? How do you know he's got a good record?
He's going to have to show us. I've been doing really well with South Shields recently, actually. In fact, most of the second half watching Burton Town yesterday was with South Shields on Football Manager. But my point back is that disconnect from everyone that Lou was saying was because you have the lack of identity, so the fans don't know what's going on. Your season ticket prices have skyrocketed through the roof, which fans don't appreciate. Players and fans are connecting with players because they're not playing for the shirt. that it just all adds up. First of all, you need to get players playing for the shirt. That brings that back. You've got to think about your fans. Can you get them on the seat? So going up the ticket prices like they have, was that ideal? No, probably not. But the main thing is to bring it all together is a performance. Is winning, and
we haven't seen any, have we, Kane?
No, but that's it. That's it. You're not going to get that, and
you've been right all season. We've had results, but we haven't had one single solid full 90-minute performance, have we?
No, it's not. It's not been there. It's not been there at all. And it is.
I love.
You'd like to watch my South Shields. They play well, actually, to my team.
Is it 5?
Anyway,
is it 5-3-2? Is that how they play?
We play 4-2-3-1, actually. But my point is the disconnect is because everywhere's disconnected. Look, I think Kevin does a great job as the owner. He's putting his money where his mouth is in a lot of places all over the club, but he's not here. And I think that gets lost quite in translation a lot. Okay, you've got someone who is putting the money in, but we see him for 2 weeks every month. You don't know what Huddersfield's like. You don't know what the club's like in that 2 week or that week that you come across. You're putting a trust in Jake Edwards, who did a superb job in the second division over in America. But does he know Huddersfield Town? No. Does Mark Cartwright know Huddersfield Town? No. You've got to have someone that you can trust on this side of the pond who knows the club. And if you don't feel like you know the club, you've got to come and see it for yourself.
Yeah.
And again, he's doing some great work for Huddersfield Town, but come and spend a year over here, and then see what it's like. Then tell me if you'd have managed things differently. Then tell me if the season ticket prices have gone up too much. Then tell me if the performances. Because when you watch a game on TV, you don't see everything. I hate commentating on a game that I'm watching on a screen because you can't tell everything. I love to read a game. I think I can read a game, but I can see what's happening at the dugout. I can see what's happening down the tunnel. I can see what's happening with the fans over there, what's happening with the fans over there, with the away end. You get a real feel for everything that's going on. Watching on a screen, you can't. Lou, you were going to say something then.
No, you echoing everything I'm going to say. Sorry, Dan, I know you want to move on, but this is a good point because Kane's absolutely spot on. Football fans are fickle, right? Football fans are expecting owners with deep pockets to put money into the club to help them get better, right? By the way, bring back from Callum because he's absolutely spot on. Please, thank you. I cannot lace that man's boots. That's all I'm saying.
Callum's currently, unfortunately, obviously not being able to be with us tonight, so that's why we had to get.
Has it been banned from here as well? Anyway, we'll move on from that.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he has actually. Yeah.
No, reason what I'm saying is you're right, Kane, and the reason I'm going to expand on that point is exactly this. Football fans expect owners, because in that position, to put money into the club to make them better, right? Owners have put themselves in that position through their own choice. Again, I'm talking about fans making their own choice to buy a ticket to go and watch a game. I have an element of sympathy with some owners, but with some others I don't, because you put yourself in that position to potentially be absolutely put as the almighty or not so all. You can never put enough money in, okay? Because they always want another extra penny, another pound more, because they want a bigger offering, whether it's on the ground, whether it's on the pitch. Football fans always want more. They're never going to be satisfied with what's being provided. I agree, Nagel's put a lot of money in. I think what he's doing in terms of building infrastructure around the base of the club and the stadium is phenomenal, no doubt about it. But you need somebody on the ground who's going to be that link between him and the fans and the players and make sure that operation is ticking over as nice as it could be. You're going to get mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to get everything right. But you need somebody who is absolutely trustworthy from the hierarchy, but also the fans and the players and the staffing around there, because that goes a huge way. And you know what? Nagel will probably go, I recognise I'm not going to get loved by everybody. And that I don't think he's necessarily in it for that, because he wants to make a difference in the community, and he's doing that spot on in terms of putting the money in. But also you need somebody on the ground to make sure the actual football club and what it's doing is going to, like Kane said, please the fans. It's going to bring you hard work. Fans are going to see players fight with a shirt, because I've seen it in different guises in different clubs before, and it doesn't work. And, you know, people are going now, oh, we need some people to front up. And I agree, 100% agree that you want some leadership both on and off the pitch to front up and do it. But if you've got the right people on the ground to do that, those calls wouldn't potentially be made from a fan's perspective. Fans don't always get it right either, but fans are a really good indicator of the litmus test of what's around here at the moment. And we know what's all the arguments and all the protests and all this that's going around it. But sometimes listening to the fans can go a long way. And actually, some fans know a lot. We know a lot about football.
They do, and we've got 3 of them on here right now. Unfortunately, one fan that is listening to the show is Mr. Christopher Bell. We normally see him on a Monday. What stage are we at widening now, lads? Chris, again, what you won't be aware, because you're not in the certain WhatsApp chat, but according to Chris, we should just be happy and thankful that we are 9th in League One, apparently, according to Chris. So I'll just leave that there. Anyway, Lincoln are doing superb at the moment, aren't they? You know. Should be in the Premier League. Anyway, let's move it on to Good Friday. So let's hope it is going to be a Good Friday, where we can have lots of chocolate Easter eggs after the game and celebrate 3 points to Huddersfield Town. We're playing Cambridge at the John Smith Stadium. First question, Kane, what's the crowd going to be? Realistic? Is it going to be more than 10,000?
Yeah. First of all, I was buzzing because I got the day off on Friday because it's Good Friday, and then I remembered I had to go to town. Of course it's going to be over 10,000. Like, people have still got season tickets, Steve. The reduction of attendance isn't going to happen until the start of next season, if that happens. Right now, people have still got season tickets. People are still going to go because they've got weekends to fill. They've got Saturdays to fill. There's only, 2 more home games to go? So they're going to make the most of it. It's 2 games. It's two games. Things will be very different. So attendance will still be around 17,000, no doubt. And it's just about, going out and doing the best to win the game. And I just want to, Ben says Giants have a bigger game against the Leeds Rhinos. I was actually supposed to be at both of these games, but I can only make one of them. But it's attendances are going to be fine, but it's whether there's going to be a performance there. You'd expect them to have one, but I don't know. I got called out for my most recent scores today when I went to the Giants game.
Whoever's watching that, because Kane doesn't know who it is. So whoever's
I spoke to the guy. We're brilliant.
So you know, but you don't know who it is, do you?
I didn't catch his name, no. But
so if you're watching, call him out now live on air as well. Yeah,
it was superb. I had a really good conversation with him. But I'm looking at the game, I'm thinking, are Town going to score? I generally think this could be a 0-0. But I'm now hoping for a better performance than what I've seen at Burton, because it can't get any worse.
What do you think we'll get one though? Do you think Do you think the players' pride will kick in, Kane?
No, I think they're done. I think their players are done. I think, like I say, what I saw on the Tuesday after the game looked deflated. What I saw at the weekend, they don't look like they want to be there, and they're under so much pressure when they're at home. So much pressure. I think Town fans will be lucky if 2 or 3 turn up and perform.
We're playing Cambridge. Obviously, they're down there, Lou, at the moment. Bottom of League One, fighting for their lives, just like Burton, actually. So they're probably coming to the ground thinking, do you know what? If Burton can beat them, so can we now. It's a massive game for them. We beat them 4-0 away, and genuinely, I know what it was when Gary Monk was managing them. I think they were absolutely abysmal. One of the worst sides I've seen in a long time at pro level. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cambridge beat us on Friday.
No, you probably won't be based on what you're seeing at the moment. Listen, the chap said it earlier. If it, it feels like it can't get any worse. I think if you lose to Cambridge, it could get worse. I think it could get quite tasty if you lose at home to Cambridge, because even so, despite everything that's going around, I think deep down, some Huddersfield Town fans are probably still expecting to come away with 3 points, and with that expectation it's a very dangerous thing. It's hard to say and reset expectations because everything that we're seeing. But if you lose 1-0, honestly, or more, then I dread to think. But the thing is, I agree with Kane. Actually, this is harsh to say. I don't think whether you win, lose, draw, or put a good performance in or a bad performance is good enough now. It papers over the cracks. You could put a brilliant performance in, but people are going to go, remember Burton last week? You could put a bad performance in going, well, we've done that last week. Whatever you do, I don't think it's good enough. I know that's a really rubbish thing to say in a podcast. I just generally don't think, whatever the case is going to be, I don't think they're going to win either way. The only way that you could possibly win is win 10-0, and you could have won 20-0, and that just ain't going to happen, is it? And even that might not be good enough.
Yeah. I think, like you say, even if we win, Kane, it's kind of like, it's a bit late in it, lads, to be turning up, because the playoffs have gone now, haven't they, Kane? Let's be brutally honest. That we're 5 points behind Bolton. No, is it Reading? 5 points behind Reading. Sorry, with 5 left to play. We're not getting the playoffs, are we?
No, yeah, I said last week. You've got to beat Wycombe, and they'll still have a chance. If they don't, 3 points is the minimum against Burton. To try and get in there, and even if they lost to Wycombe and beat Burton, it would have been a slim chance. All chances have gone. That's it. No playoffs. It's not happening. As Lou said, Town can win 10-0. Reading and Bolton can lose, and it still probably won't be good enough. Because that's it. I just don't see Town. Do they win another game this year?
4 left to play. Sorry, Ben. 4 left to play. I'm bad. Saturday mocked my brain so badly that I don't know how many we've got left to play. 4 left to play. But yeah. Let's get some comments in. Ian says it's going to be 2-0 Cambridge. Another gutless performance. Yeah, it's positive on here tonight, isn't it? Jed, Jed's coming all the way from Oz. Hey up, Jed. How are we doing? We now have nothing to play for. Not even Pride, sadly. Saturday was nothing short of disgraceful. And we've also got Fiona, who says it was nice to see Rambo back at the microphone today. Obviously, he was doing the stadium announcing for the Giants game. So, Kane, as customary, as ever, I've asked you for the previous 42 games. What is your score prediction going to be? Because there's big pressure tonight. There's somebody watching this podcast that is going to call you out in future for getting it wrong. So you're getting well known now.
Just like you do, even though we're uncalled for, especially when I get a lot of stuff wrong. Anyway, I'm going.
Right, Lou. What?
Oh, that's even worse. That's even
worse. You know what it is, though, Lou? I turn up week in, week out, don't I, for Steve?
You do.
You know what, Kane? You know what, Kane? There you go. Yeah. Jobs are good, mate. Jobs are good, and we've got the power.
Lou, you didn't even know which buttons to press until other week until I showed you. Anyway,
well, you shouldn't show me then, should you, mate?
No, I shouldn't have actually. Kane, sorry. What was your score prediction?
Yeah, I'm going goalless. I think Town are going to struggle to create.
After all that goalless, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it is. I can see it in your face that you don't really want to say goalless, do you? But
I don't, because I believe in Worthy. I think there's some really good players. I generally do think there's some really good players. I believe in Worthy, and I feel as if every time I've believed in this club this year, it's gone against me.
God. Lou, being the outsider.
You know what? I think it's going to sum up the season. I think you could turn up and put an half-decent performance and then win 2-0. I do. I think it's one of those situations where you see you've put one of the worst performances at the weekend, and then you'll come up next Saturday and you'll have a comfortable 2-0 win. Mad. Football's mad.
I think we'll lose 2-1. I think we'll lose 2-1. I think it'll be an own goal that gets the winner for Cambridge. That's how depressed I am at the moment. And for all this, we are relying on a Lincoln fan to bring the positivity to the podcast, because he's put 4-1 Huddersfield. I mean, when Chris Bell is predicting a town win, we know we're on a hiding to nothing, aren't we, lads? Well, it's been another exciting podcast. I think we're going to bring it to an end, because we've done an hour and 30 there of probably, it's been, for me and Kane, it's probably a bit of a therapeutic session, to be honest. So I hope you've enjoyed it, Kane, because we've kind of got everything maybe out that we wanted to say.
Yeah, I don't have to pay for it. No, I can just come on here.
Yeah. Any last thoughts, Kane, before we end the podcast? Have you got anything else?
No, just so disappointed over the last couple of games. I still believe in Worthy. The players have got to really take a good hard look in themselves. I know Jed just said we can't defend. Yeah, it's a good point. Can Cambridge attack? I don't know, but I think some of them players have really got to look at themselves. And if Worthy needs to ring the changes, then let him do so. I just for me, just want players who want to work hard. That it's just one simple thing. Thing. That's all you ask for. Yeah.
Lou, anything from you?
No, listen, football's a great game, innit? We've all got opinions. Some of his comments are great. You've got to keep your humour in the dark times. You've just got to try and finish as strong as you can. And obviously, whatever comes next will come next. But people asking for a massive clear out of players, unfortunately, football doesn't always work like that. There's going to be some players that will probably be in Huddersfield Town shirt that you may not want. Because you're not going to clear out 15, 16 players and get 15, 16 players back in and get that system going. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of work to do, I think, both on and off the pitch to reconnect together. And I think, for me, you've almost got to take a step or two back to go to a free forward. And listen, it's not going to change at the weekend. The season looks like it's done, but you know what? It's a crazy game. You're only 5 points behind that. You just never know. I mean, could you imagine it? Could you imagine a meltdown if you got there through to playoffs with a good run?
True. Last comment here from Adam, who says it's his first following tonight. Well, Adam, I'm really glad that you've enjoyed the show. We try and make it as entertaining as possible, even when we've lost 3-0 to Burton. But we are going to end it now. Thank you very much for everybody commenting. We've had the most comments I think we've ever had on a show, Kane. So it's been brilliant to see all the comments and people getting involved. It really does make a difference, doesn't it, mate, when we have these chats?
I mean, I read every single comment that comes through. Just because we've not mentioned them or seen them come out. Believe me, I read them because some of my comments I do try and make back to what you guys have said. So it's brilliant, great to have them in. And Ben, as always, you just talk, Ben, don't you? We appreciate it.
Somebody put 50p in, Ben.
If only your strike force was prolific as Ben, I mean, you might be.
Up the town, he says. Lou, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time on this Sunday evening. I know it's not normally a podcast night for you, so really do appreciate it, mate.
No, chaps, been a pleasure.
And we'll be back tomorrow for another roundtable show where we'll discuss every team from West Yorkshire. But yeah, thank you very much, Kane, as ever, for coming on. Really do appreciate it. And we'll see you next Sunday at 8 o'clock. And I'll see you on Friday at the game.
Yeah, cheers, mate. And thanks, Lou. Thanks for coming on, bud.
No worries. Like I said, thanks everybody for commenting. Please do follow the channel, share and like the video. Tune in tomorrow to our roundtable show, like I said, where we'll be going through all the other teams, Halifax, Bradford, them down the road that seems to be going well in Leeds United at the moment. And all the other non-league teams, there's been some big playoff games this week in non-league, which I'm sure Lou will be wrapping up tomorrow. Sorry, I'm choking. But for now, we're going to end the tour and have a good rest of your Sunday evening. Hopefully, it won't be up the U's on Friday. It'll be up the Udders. Good night.